Hey guys, welcome back in the wild to do another video for you guys. It's not that wild here, but it's, little wild forest, I guess. Anyways, let's talk about this idea of just got attacked. See, I told you it's wild. Anyways, let's talk about this idea of the gods and monsters that we've seen play out through a lot of these mythologies. Now, a few examples are the Olympians versus the Titans, which is interesting because Saturn, or Kronos, was the ruler of the Titans, yet likely he is one of the archons of the Olympians, which I think currently rule. So there's some further research and discrepancy that I need to do regarding that, because little tangent first, Saturn, or Kronos, was the one that castrated his father, Uranus, which then Saturn was then castrated or taken down in a similar fashion by Zeus, which is said to be the ruler of the Olympians, the new god of the gods. And Zeus can be attributed to Enlil. Enki was Saturn, for making Sumerian connections, and Anu was Uranus, and that's where we get the name Anunnaki from, because it was Anu and Ki, Anu being Uranus and Ki being Gaia, the earth. Okay, so they had consorts the whole time. Another depiction of the gods versus monsters are what we know as angels versus demons, devas versus asuras as well. Okay, and so then let me explain what these actually symbolize. And this is also talked about in the book Can You Stand the Truth? But I didn't really fully understand what she was talking about. It made sense in my head, but I'm like, okay, where's the mythology really? What is she really talking about? And these titans, or these demons, or these asuras, known in the Hindu mythology, which is actually funny because in Persian mythology, asuras are actually the good guys, the angels, and devas are the demons. But in Hindu mythology, it's backwards. So it's interesting who praises who, right? Who worships who. But these demons are essentially the astral entities. They're the thought forms created by the human counterparts, us in the human kingdom. They're the negative beings, let's say, of the dual polarity matrix. Now, these negative beings, these demons, are the causers of chaos, right? They act sort of independently of the hierarchy, of the structure imposed on by these gods. And in a sense, they're always at war with the gods, right? Why? Because they're feeding on the same supply, which is us, humans, on the same energetic supply. And I've always wondered, how can, these demons, these demonic entities, they always don't seem to be following any sort of plan. They're in a sense more chaotic and kind of like minions, which they could be. They could very much well be minions used by these hierarchical beings, but they're also agents of chaos. They're also acting out of their own accord because they need to feed themselves. And in the Book of the Dead, these are the first beings that come out of the human psyche, out of the astral body, that will then feed on the soul, or on the deceased one, to get the last of its energy, the last of its energetic benefit from the human, right? And these will manifest as demons, and they are essentially hiding themselves in the human's astral body. They're forming their homes there, and they manifest as the lower 7 desires, 7 sins, essentially. that constantly push the human to go out of their way to fulfill these desires, right? But then there are the higher 7 desires, let's say, what we would know as the opposite to the lower 7 sins. These are the more positive, gracious aspects that humans also derive energy from. And we've talked about this in previous videos. It's the nature of this duality, that people seek to be higher. They seek to conquer the lower nature so they can embody the higher chakras, the higher nature. But you have to realize that this is part of the same didactic system of control. Whereas after the negative entities are done feeding on you, this is of course if you're going through the reincarnation process. If you sort of sidestep this, you don't go through this. Then these angels, which are also known as masters, right? Masters of what? I don't know, masters of their realm. But that's where we get this name ascended masters potentially from, right? Because they're masters, they're kind of like the masters over the slaves, maybe. The rulers, the archons. These are the more smile in your face but stab you in the back type of beings, right? They're the false light, they're the benevolent ones, the benevolent demons. And they're the archangels, they're the 7 archons, they're the 7 planets. Although the Titans were actually associated with the 7 planets before Zeus sort of took throne, potentially. And so there's that. You know, the Titans were what I described as the demons versus the Olympian gods, the archons. And these beings then feed upon that positive energy that comes out of you, that you accumulated throughout your life in your astral body as memory, right? Now, where does this all fit in terms of with Sophia and the myth of her descent, let's say? Because going back to the Sumerian mythology, she's actually the ruler of the 7 gatekeepers, they call it. Well, 7 gatekeepers to hell, of the underworld, right? And we can actually attribute the underworld to the astrals, because it's the underworld of the true heaven, okay? So there are 2 female goddesses, and the rest are male demons, that each rule a level of this underworld in the Sumerian myth, and they judge the soul based on its actions in life. Again, sounds very similar to the reincarnation process and the life review, right, which is ruled by these archons. For example, one judges the weight of the heart, whether it's weighing more than a feather, let's say, right? And of course, this is a big manipulation, because the earthly realm heart, that love is very conditional. So it's kind of like saying, how well did you conditionally love other people, right? So again, it's a trap. It's not the true not a true judgment, let's say. It's based on fallacy. So that's one demon, right? And you go all the way up, you keep going through these levels, each judging certain characteristics. There's one for how much knowledge as well attained. But we have the top one, which is known as Engrishkal, I believe. I already forgot the name. I'm not the best with names. But she is said to be a goddess, and is said to be the ruler of these, one of them, but also the chief of them. That sounds similar to the chief archon, okay? Now, again, they could have done this to Sophia like they did to Jesus, where Jesus' name actually means chief archon, because it's Jesus, which is Jesus, which is praise Zeus. In French, it's I am, right? Je suis. I am that I am. The God of the Bible, I am that I am, is actually Saturn, or Yahweh, which was, again, like I mentioned, taken down by Zeus. So could the new god of this matrix actually be Jesus or Jesus, right? Simply always a praise to Zeus. In the movie Bruce Almighty, Bruce sounds like Zeus. His character Bruce is portrayed by Jim Carrey, which is JC, which JC is Jesus Christ. Okay, and at the beginning of the movie, once he gains his powers from God, who is Morgan Freeman, whose name probably is connected to Saturn in some way, he's on top of this telephone pole, and you see the lightning coming down as he sort of claims his godhood, right? And lightning is attributed to Zeus. So where I was going with that is that they likely did the same thing to Sophia, her name, or whatever her true name may be, as they did to Jesus, whatever his true name may be, painted over with this actual goddess worship, which is demonic, right? These archonic still worship that isn't a true depiction of what is actually going on, okay? So this being, Englishkal, who can actually be attributed to Persephone, another ruler of the underworld, Inanna / Ishtar / Isis, okay? They're essentially governing which souls can pass to heaven. And likely none, right? Likely everyone is forced to go back. When going through this process, everyone is told that they're not good enough. But another interesting fact here, or a connection, is the element of these consorts. Every male demon has a consort female demon, and her consort is actually said to be, well, not her brother is actually said to be Anu. And remember, Anu was Uranus, the ruler of the gods, and her brother is Enlil, so she's part of the same Anunnaki family. So red flag, right? In astrology, the consort of Saturn is actually Venus, but also the moon. So we have the Saturn moon matrix, or the Saturn Venus consort relationship, which is Venus is again said to be Isis or Inanna, or this Sophia being, but Isis in Egyptian mythology actually represents the moon, and Isis saved Osiris, which is likely a connection to Saturn, or potentially Zeus even as well, because Zeus castrated Saturn, Saturn castrated Uranus, right? And again, Isis fetches the phallus to bring him back to life in the form of Horus. Okay. Now in Egyptian, in the Sumerian mythology, they depict these demons as either serpents or dragons. They also depict, I think this is Babylonian, or it might have been Sumerian also. They also depict Tiamat as the dragon of chaos. So, another connection here, the primordial chaos, out of the primordial chaos, which is the Masonic motto, emerges order, right? Out of the primordial chaos emerged light, but it's false light. It's the Lucifer, the Luciferian order, with Anu and Ki, earth, Anu, sky. They created the matrix. They created creation, let's say. Okay. So it is that chaos, it is the void, this void, that is actually the eros down here pulling down that light, those light codes even that were stolen by Lucifer to then create, right? It's the magnetism with the electricity, the lightning, Zeus, magnetism, the earth, the attractive force, right? The eros. So, you know, being that this being is representing all of that, and what are dragons and serpents in terms of entities? They are these reptilian dragonic beings that are essentially working in the background, in the astrals, forming attachments to people, right? Very similar to demonic entities, except the dragons are more likely the ones behind the false light. They're more likely the ones able to deceive you, right? And you can see these entities are a lot of subliminal regressive hypnotists. Hypnotists, I put that in quotation marks, can see these beings, and they, with their regressions, whether it be through things like quantum healing or things like that, these beings will show up in the person's imagination, let's say. And it's like, how are they really imagining these things? Now, some people can only see the reptilians, right? But others can see the dragons, which are actually potentially higher evolved versions of reptilians that now have wings, or who knows. And of course, the demiurge, the Ouroboros, is depicted as a dragon. Tiamat is the dragon of chaos, according to the Sumerians. And this being Anger's Call is depicted as a serpent-like being. And they're all set to form this communion of serpents. Again, that's a red flag that should be going off in your head, because these entities, they love to masquerade. All of the Egyptian gods and goddesses, in my opinion, are these beings, these dragonic reptilian beings, masquerading. For what point? The same premise that we started this video with, right? Gods versus monsters, to usurp the human being's energy in the form of praise and worship. Any being that is getting you to, or is trying to get you to sacrifice, to elicit praise or some sort of worship, right? Just like we see with the idea of Jesus with the cross, you're worshiping death. You're worshiping the death of a human being. Now, like I said, I do believe that being existed, and he came through in an unnatural birth, because he's not from here. He is not of the material, but he was the Christ. He is what is inside all of the true beings here. And so is Sophia, right? Potentially the true source light that was drawn into this place and trapped. And to release that, we have to let go of the energetic component of ourselves, right? You cannot love the body and the soul, or the energetic part of that soul, or you will lose the spiritual half of that soul. If you hate that part, if you are detached from it, if you are not feeding it constantly, then you will gain the true part of that, which is the Christ, right? And these beings have been fighting for that energetic part from you for a very long time, likely, okay? And that's where we have these ideas of the mythologies of the underworld, and constantly judging them, and the ideas of wars in the heavens between Titans and Olympians, Devas and Asuras, gods and monsters, angels and demons, okay? Hope that made sense. Just a few connections that I've been making over this past week regarding, first of all, these consorts, and now more recently these gods versus demons aspect, okay? So let me know what you thought in the comments. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more relevant content, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.